can you just introduce yourself and can you just introduce your business?
Yeah, my name is Eetu Ristaniemi. I'm the CEO of Spacent. And in short, our product is a co-working platform. So basically, we bundle up the whole co-working market into one service. Like for example, in London, we have 40 locations altogether, and in the UK, 80 locations, and European-wide, over 300 locations. So what we do, we basically integrate all of the co-working places and their systems into one platform. So it's as easily used as you would be a member in one of those locations.
Gotcha, I see. And so when you were first building it out, um, are you the technical side of it, or did you find someone to do that side?
No, I'm from the real estate side, so basically business side in this case. So we needed to hire a tech team in the beginning, and actually that was like in the middle of Corona. So we actually like hired everyone remotely at the same time. We had a team of 7 people actually doing the tech back at that time. So it was like a really strange process for a real estate person to actually do hiring for 7 tech people at the same time. But yeah, it went through really well. But of course, like the Corona time was like quite difficult in terms of like hiring because you didn't really see people in live like for 6 months or so. But yeah,
So trying to find the technical side of the business, especially as someone non-technical, um, were you mainly were you trying to find someone to lead the tech team, or were you trying to find individual? It sounds like you were trying to lead. It sounds like you're trying to lead a technical team being non-technical, which that sounds like that.
yeah.
It's just
But
incredible.
I'm still like a product guy. But we had like a quite a, I don't know if it's a unique process for hiring people, but we actually did like a team interview. So we actually had like 20 people that were like the short list of the tech team, and we actually like bundled them up into the same event. So and the idea behind that was like we needed to find a good cultural fit for the company, and it was like it was a strange process, but we did a lot of preparing for that. Obviously, we had like hundreds of applicants back then, and then we had this short list, and then we were sort of trying to find like who is the right CTO for the company and who would be the right people like as a designer and then full stack developers and so on. So I don't know if it's a good recommendation for anyone, but especially like if you want to hire like a team that has a cultural fit. So I think that was a good process for that. And of course, like we wanted to have diversity in the group as well. So like, for example, like not everyone needs to be like an extrovert in the group, and not everyone needs to be like some kind of, if we put some kind of skill set. So uh, I don't know if we're a good example for hiring a tech team, but we just did it like all at once.
Well, has it worked out for you though?
Yeah, it has worked really well. But of course, like we hired that like in the middle of Corona, we just got our seed funding, so we had good funding. So we needed to cut like half of the tech team during Corona because like the business just didn't fly back then. But no
That
one,
does feel like the worst time to set that up.
no one has left the company in 5 years voluntarily. So in that sense, like I think it worked pretty well.
And so when you were going through that process, did a CTO sort of appear to you, and it was quite apparent in that sort of hiring process, especially like a group hiring process? Did that person sort of naturally rise to the top?
We had like 2 candidates like after that process, and we didn't promote anyone like at once to be like the CTO. So it happened like gradually actually. So there was like this kind of like at least a mental test period, like who would be the leader of the group in a way. So the decision wasn't made like right during that process actually.
Yeah, that does sound like a great sort of approach to doing it, especially if you're coming at it from a non-technical approach for it. But then, so when it did get to those sort of later stages, and you're sort of looking and sort of trying to find someone and actually be like, this is the person who's going to lead that up. What skills outside of obviously the technical skills? Because I mean, for that side of the business, those are necessary. But outside of those skills, what skills outside of being able to code, what are you looking at to be able to lead that side of the business?
Well, of course, like since I'm not a tech person myself, so it was more like who could coordinate the team, like in a like I would say most transparent and most efficient way. I think that was sort of like what I was trying to look for in the team. I was working like quite heavily on the development side, but obviously with no technical background at all. So like I couldn't even sort of like judge like how the technical capabilities of people were back then. So it was sort of like also that there needs to be a person that who can talk business and who can talk tech at the same time. So there needs to be sort of like trust element between the teams. And talking about teams, we don't have like separate teams for business or tech. Like
Yep.
we're all the same team. But in terms of skill sets, there needs to be this kind of certain uh, that you can sort of interpret the business side to the tech side.
Gotcha. I see. And in this process now, how old is Spacent quickly? How old is it?
Pretty much like 5 years.
5 years. Okay. So in that time, I'm sure there must have been times when there was friction between the technical side of it and you coming from on the business mind of it. Can you just talk us through any times where you felt like maybe there was a particular example where what they're sort of aiming towards and what you're aiming towards did differ?
Yeah, I would say like especially in the beginning, like sort of the ideas that we get from the business side are really vague for tech people. So we needed to sort of like have spend a lot of time like explaining what it means, and we started to create frameworks like how business people can talk tech to the tech team in a way. Uh, and then now we do have sort of like a product owner originally coming from the business side, but she has been also like training to become a developer at the same time. So she's like from that kind of a background. And I think that's sort of needed in our business, that we do have this kind of like a person who is heavily involved in the business side, but at the same time can be like really tech oriented as well.
Yeah.
So I think like product owner is quite a key for this kind of a business as well.
Gotcha. One thing that I find sort of like is like a really exciting sort of period that I feel like Spacing is at the moment is this period of scale that I mean, I feel like you've already sort of gone through it, that you know you are all across Europe. Um, and so given that, the tech side of it sort of does have to sort of change gears a bit. Whereas, you know, obviously when you're looking at sort of MVP and sort of post MVP, it's about like features and sort of growing that side. And but then it does really have to sort of shift gears into sort of looking at, you know, the sort of the metrics of scale. And how has your not even just your relationship, but how has your tech team sort of changed to sort of accommodate that?
Yeah, it's a complicated question because like obviously everything becomes more complex when you have something on the background already. And you have implemented something. You know, every change you make is like more complex than it was in the past. So that's sort of like the thing that we have to cope with. That when we change something, something could break on the background. Of course, that's something that what we need to do in order to like sort of cope with that fact. We need to plan a lot of things ahead. Like, and we need to like reserve time that something goes sour when we change something. So in fact, like we do have a smaller team that we had than we had back then. We need to prioritize a lot of things. Uh, but at the same time, the complexity also like provides us a lot of burden for development. So it just like becomes a lot slower. Uh, but at the same time, it's like something that in order to prove like in order to be more scalable in the future, we really need to like not leave something in the back that would harm us in the future. So it sort of like changes the mentality. It also like slows down a bit, like getting new features out. But still, it's like something that we need to always look in, that the scalability of this solution is good in the future as well.
We all hate tech debt. We all hate tech debt. It's there for all of us. Just curious, how big is your tech team now? How many people is it?
And we actually have 3 people plus the product owner. So
Really?
it's
So
not.
that's okay. That's really impressive, especially like for getting to that size. And but so you said it was larger
Yeah, yeah,
previously.
yeah. We had 7 people in the tech team.
Gotcha. And then so going from 7 to 3, what was it that was like? Why? What was the decision behind making it smaller?
Well, obviously, it was like the cost side was the main reason for doing that. But I would say also like it doesn't necessarily mean that 7 people tech team is like almost 2.5 times more efficient than 3 people tech team.
Definitely not.
because
Definitely.
there's a lot of coordination happening, like when you scale up from 3 to 7. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is just doing the best that like basically the most efficient thing and task that they could at that time. So I would say like uh, probably our efficiency didn't go down that much when we were decreasing the team. But of course, like the main driver was cost. So it wasn't like something that we wanted to do, but we just had to do it.
Gotcha. Okay. I think we've got time for one more question. I'm just curious. Coming from the non-technical side, I'm just curious. Have you found that throughout this experience that your technical ability and technical understanding has improved a lot? If like for some people, yes, for some people, no. But I'm just curious. Do you think that is something that is necessary for any sort of founder, especially non-technical founders?
Well, obviously, like there's a lot of things that have changed, like after 2020. Like for example, like using AI, like for everything. And of course there needs to be some learning curve to be made, and we actually have a project as well that how to implement Gen AI to our product, because and it's of course it's not so much like a technical thing, it's actually like an operational thing, but still a lot of our tech team members are just like basically integrating different kind of AI things into their work as well. So that's obviously something that has changed like all the time, but I guess the main thing is that the complexity and the whole background that we have for the system is something that we need to like plan ahead quite a lot. And I don't think anyone from our tech team has been in a startup company this long that there has been this kind of like complexity issue to be solved.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
has been great. Awesome. Great. Lovely.